This is a really good question. I save a lot of seeds. And there's some things, like you said, cross-pollinating, not cross-pollinating matters. Important things to remember are that the reason you save seed is not to preserve some kind of heirloom strain or have the exact same, say, tomato year to year. It's so that you get plants that like what you're doing. You, in your little piece of dirt, what you do, where you are. This is called land race gardening. And a lot of the really good heirloom plants that we have were made this way. The seeds were created this way. You're hybridizing. You're genetically modifying the plants that you grow by allowing them to cross-pollinate and then picking the very best and using those seeds again and again until you have very good, kind of more reliable stuff that will grow in your little patch where you are, the way you do things. Now, I do everything. I save seeds from everything. This right here is just what I currently have been grabbing. We have dill, and this is 3 or 4 different varieties of dill I planted originally a few years ago. They've cross-pollinated, and now this dill gets very tall, makes big leaves, and lots of seeds. I keep pulling the best seeds from the best plant every year until I've got one that really likes this place and what I do. Same with marigolds. This is 6 years of allowing dozens of different kinds of marigolds to cross-pollinate. Flowers are really good for this because you're not eating anything that could potentially be dangerous. And then on this side is my garlic. Now, I usually plant a new kind of garlic every year, always hardneck. So this is bunches of different kinds of garlic. And I collect both the little bulbils and the full cloves to plant again in the fall. I'm letting them cure here and dry out, and then I'll plant those in the fall. I also collect my kale. It's in a broccoli container, but it's kale. I let that cross-pollinate. I've planted probably 20 varieties of kale, and I just let the bees do their thing. At the end of the season, I let the best plant that I want to eat the most, that's the one I let go to seed. And those are the seeds I collect. I do the same with pretty much everything. Like all of the seeds that I have in like 4 or 5 of these containers are land raised. Tomatoes are particularly good for this, as well as peppers, because they will adapt to your local environment. The bees will cross-pollinate all of them, and they will produce very well after a while. Tomatillos too. Corn is another one. If you find a few, always pick the same type of corn: dent corn, popcorn, or sweet corn. Don't plant any combination of those 3. Pick one variety type. I do sweet corn because that's what I like. And then pick varieties. Plant a bunch of them. The biggest, best ear of corn you get, that's your seed for next year. And it will be cross-pollinated from all of those varieties to thrive where you live, where you plant, and how you take care of the plant. Same goes for tomatillo, tomato, and pepper. With peppers, there's a whole process to it. Heat, sweet, all that stuff. I'm just looking for ones that will make a lot so I can fry them up with my crooknecks. I love yellow crookneck squash. Going on to squash. Squash are a different proposition, and this is true for all cucurbits like squash, winter squash, summer squash. What can happen is that squashes can cross-pollinate, and there's a thing called bitter gourd. It's like a chemical that's inside things like birdhouse gourds and wild coyote pumpkins or whatever, and it makes them very bitter to taste, and it's a chemical that can actually make you really sick if you eat enough of it. So if you're going to cross-pollinate squash, it's experimental. You're going to plant that experimental seed, keep track of which plant it is, and you're going to take the first one that's ripe, slice it, taste it. Is it bitter? Pull the whole plant out. Worthless seed. It's not bitter? Go ahead and eat it. It's fine. It's just a random cross-pollinated kind of squash. And this is, of course, the year after you've grown from seed packet. They cross-pollinate the flowers. You collect the seed from that plant, the fruit, the actual squash, and you replant it the following year. And at that point, if you get something that's not bitter, save those seeds. plant them again and do it again the following year until you finally get something that's good. Now, consistency is a problem, so you don't want to be sharing these because they could be bitter. But if you get to something that is consistent, where every squash on every plant you're planting for a year or two is not bitter, you've got your landrace squash going. I've done this with sunflowers too. I've planted probably a dozen varieties of sunflower. I let all of them cross-pollinate, and I replant them. And what I have now, I just call them my sunflowers. They make pretty decent sized heads, maybe 8 to 10 inches across. They're not very tall because I'm short. And they make multiple flower stalks. They're fat stalks with multiple flower heads. I've just always planted all kinds of edible sunflowers and let them cross-pollinate and then replant them. So that's how I get more sunflower seed here, where I am, the way I do things. I do this with herbs too. Like I have 3 or 4 kinds of fennel that I've planted. I put them close together. I let them cross-pollinate, and the best looking one goes to seed. I'll be collecting seeds from this pretty soon, and then next year I'll plant those, maybe with 1 or 2 seed packets of new stuff, and just keep going like that. I do that with thyme, basil, cilantro, fennel, and dill. And all of those things will kind of acclimatize, and then the following generations of the seed that you saved are really... So what you see here is a bunch of seed I'm drying out. There's some peas in there that were really good. And I went on ran to Office Depot or whatever, and I bought these little, they're for coin collectors, envelopes. I got 1,000 for $5. When my seeds dry, I just put them in here, write what they are. Sometimes I write the year. And then these go into my containers, into my bins, and then I have them next year, and I know what seed I got. This is an ubi. This shouldn't be here, but whatever. I'm drawing some radish seeds, some raspberries. Owen is in trouble. My neighbor's dog is named Owen. Owen's out there, buddy. Owen's in trouble, buddy. Yeah. So yeah, plant from packet, let the bees do their job, put similar plants near each other, collect the seed from the best looking produce at the end of the season, let them dry out, the seeds, and then next year you plant them. And for almost everything, you'll get something interesting at least, sometimes something really good. And if you continue to do it year on year, you end up with stuff that is a land race that grows on your land properly and that flourishes with the kind of care that you give your plants. Whether that's drought, swales, lots of water, whatever climate and attention you give, you will get the better stuff that likes what you're doing. So you don't have to change what you're doing to grow tomatoes or corn. That is how I save seed. That's literally it. The only thing I would caution on too is things like apple seeds and cherry seeds and stuff. Most of those are fruit trees. Most of them are grafted. So the variety you grow is not growing on its own roots in your area. The roots it's on might be a crab apple, because those do go okay where you are. The apple itself, the fruit itself, is the variety that was grafted to that crab apple. And they may be delicious, but their roots might die where you are. They might not produce fruit where you are. So with things like fruit trees, it's not really worth it. I would just plant one that you know will grow where you are, get a crab apple or something that you can graft onto, and then get scions of the type that you want to grow and graft them onto the branches so that you have the variety you want on the roots that you know will survive. But for everything else, yeah, save seeds, absolutely.